Hey, welcome back, grannies and gators, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is Monday, July 15th, and it's been, I guess you could say, the craziest weekend in modern history. And tonight, we're not going to be covering that. Why? Because everybody else on the planet is. And I want to personally wait until more details, more facts, less emotion come into play on that. And it's not to say that there's not going to be some parallels or some things that might come up throughout the show here tonight, or some connections. There indubitably will be, to when we're looking at everything that's going on. Guys, I'm having some technical issues here tonight. I don't know if this is specifically because I am who I am and I do what I do, or if there is something else going on. So please chirp in if you're getting this. We should be streaming on X, Wimkin, uh, Instagram, and of course Rumble, and YouTube as well. So they've really been hammering me hard. What I'm starting to discover in doing some of the deeper dive research, because that's what I do, they're actually blocking me by my IP address for now. As of today, the World Economic Forum has me blocked from accessing their website anywhere, right? So I guess, but it's making it a little bit more challenging for me to find some things that they don't want you to see. Just for everybody else's, just what does that look like when your IP address has been denied and you've been blocked? It's I don't have permission to access what I was looking for, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media organization called GARM. Most people probably are not familiar with. But so see, that's kind of what things the way I operate, right? When everybody else is looking one direction, I'm kind of the guy going, okay, all eyes are over there. What's going on over there? That's kind of me. And I'm sure everybody is on overload with news and vibrations. Absolutely, it's like that almost around the world. I'm still waiting to see more feedback coming in from the geopolitical overview of things, but this was, by all accounts, from their interpretations, a bridge too far that's gone on here. X is an absolute war zone, disaster area. Um, with insanity, and emotions run rampant. But I'll tell you one thing that it's doing, though. It's making it easy to see who the bad guys are and who the people that don't know what's going on are supporting. So it's really separating the insane from the tired, not the angry mob that they are trying to convince us to be, or trying to project or portray that we are. So none of that going on. Um, hey, awesome. Hey, Brian's dogs. Awesome. Thanks for the $1 boost there, guys. That's something in that. Wow, my stuff is all way out to lunch here. I was late getting started because it made me start. I couldn't start my stream. It took me 5 tries to get my stream even going. So it's really crazy. Looks like X is down. I'm just getting the spinning circle of doom. Looks like Instagram, Wimkin, Rumble, and of course LGM should be doing good. But yeah, so we're going to look at some other stuff today that is not the shot heard around the world right now. We're going to be looking at some other stuff instead, and we're going to start with something that I believe to be exponentially true in all matters. And to me, you know, I have absolutely no respect for the mercenary media. I can't even call them mockingbirds. They are mockingbirds. They copycat each other, but to me, they are hired assassins of the truth. They will take the highest dollar to destroy any character, any society, any people, whatever it takes. They'll take the money and they will kill whatever it is that they're that they're targeted with. So if that is not by definition mercenaries, I don't know what really is. So we're going to take a 41-second listen to Julian, who's somebody we haven't really heard much of for what, like 10 years they had him locked down. But we're going to listen to this and dig into a little bit more. But this is going to be some real deep Canadian stuff, guys. I'm going to introduce you guys to some more corruption, some more faces, some stuff that's going to be going on. We're just going to kind of set up for the week.
Government propaganda, they could have stopped it. But what does that mean? Well, that means basically populations don't like wars. And populations have to be fooled into wars. Populations don't willingly and with open eyes go into a war. So if we have a good media environment, then we'll also have a peaceful environment. One of the hopeful things that I've discovered is that nearly every war that has started in the past 50 years has been a result of media lies. And the media could have stopped it if they had searched deep enough. If they hadn't reprinted government propaganda, they could have stopped it. But what does that mean? Well, that means basically populations don't like wars. And populations have to be fooled into wars. Populations don't willingly and with open eyes go into a war. So if we have a good media environment, then we'll also have a peaceful environment.
Tell me that nobody believes that, right? Kind of, it cuts it right to the chase. Yeah, no, it looks like X has been taken down. I'll see if I can. No, it's telling me I'm live here, but yet I'm not able to pick it up on my watch panel. So really not sure what to say about X, guys. So fingers crossed. We're getting to the good stuff these days, and our establishment is getting incredibly nervous. So to key in on what Julian said there, populations need to be fooled into war. 100% believe that, and that's exactly what they have been doing for a number of years now, going on to close to, heading into 3, but actually more than 10 with what they've been manifesting in Ukraine in this proxy war with Russia. And this is one of the things that they're really desperately trying to escalate. And the distraction, not saying that it wasn't real. Not this is a real event what America is experiencing right now. But what I'm gonna lay out a little bit is when these events happen, never let a good crisis go to waste. Right? That is what the left is running through their minds. The instant that event happened with former President Trump, the left was busy, and they had been trying to escalate the war in the Ukraine exponentially. And I'm not going to dig into this with show notes tonight, guys. I'm just going to lay a couple of the points. When they basically fixed the election in the UK, they fixed the election in France. The intent at that time was to seize the Russian assets that they had in limbo and to start sending medium-range missiles to the Ukraine to start striking into the heartland of Russia. At which point, the UAE and Saudi princes basically said, if you guys move ahead with either of these plans, we will we'll deindustrialize your nations by taking all of our investments out of the EU, out of England, out of France. They would take all of their money, cut and run. So that really forced a backtracking from the new prime minister, Mr. Globalist cookie cutter. to renounce his qualified statement of sending missiles to the Ukraine, and the seizure of the Russian assets. They changed their mind on that, and so what we're seeing now is these their bluffs are getting called, and they're backpedaling like mad. Even Biden, just a couple of days ago, having said that I'll consider not running again if they told me I can't possibly win, is a big difference from no matter what, I'm running. So there's a whole lot of backpedaling going on the global stage. That's one, I guess, the bottom line of what I'm trying to get across here. You got to forgive me a little bit, guys. A little frazzled from the tech issues, and of course today's the day of migraine strikes, so just this is going to be kind of getting through it. So there's going to be a lot of good news and a lot of introductions. We're going to get into a little bit of the good news, and this is one of the few things that I'm going to cover for just a minute, and you'll find everything in the Substack as well, guys, tomorrow. So make sure that you get over to the Substack and get subscribed over there. I'll put that up here for you guys while we watch just a minute of this video to set up more of what we need to understand. So this event just happened a couple of days ago, and of course the CBC up here, just like the rest of the Mockingbird media, mercenaries, immediately tried to portray it as this is Trump's fault. This is what they're going to try to use to trigger the civil war, the justification for cracking down on us. They want us to be violent. They want us to do what Black Lives Matter did. That's what they want the conservatives to do. And this was what up here in Canada, because our liberal hashtag WEF Fourth Reich all operates in lockstep. They're trying to burn down the Reichstag as well, and people, I hope, get that analogy. But they're trying to burn down the Reichstag so that they can justify us as dangerous, irrational, emotional, far right, whatever. So the CBC going to give you just a
shameless Trudeau lapdogs at the CBC just blamed Trump for surviving an assassination attempt. These taxpayer-funded propagandists immediately exploited the deadly attack at a Trump rally to smear the ex-president and his supporters. Outrageously, the CBC's analysis piece shifted blame onto Trump, fueling the same dangerous hatred that motivated the gunman. As Trump literally bled from a bullet wound to the head, CBC hacks rushed to point fingers instead of condemning the violence. They disgracefully blamed Trump's violent rhetoric for inspiring the attack. Right, because Trump supporters are totally going around shooting people up. This is the disgusting bilge Canadians pay billions for annually from the bloated Trudeau vanity network. It's nothing but 24/7 woke propaganda vilifying normal conservatives and emboldening the radical left. Imagine being a Trump supporter gunned down at the rally and having to watch taxpayer-funded CBC minions rant about how you had it coming. Is there no limit to how low these socialist proud-to-shills will sink?
No, there is no depth to how sick they will pump their garbage out. That's kind of what I wanted for people to be aware. This is how they're going to try to get us twisted into bunches so that they can say that we're doing irrational things. We cannot give them this. So this organization called the Canadian Broadcasting Corp, it's got all kinds of nicknames that are probably more appropriate to them, but at the end of the day, they get $1.4 billion a year up front, and all in with everything else, the perks and bonuses and graft and goodies that they get and kickbacks. It works out to almost $3 billion a year, I think, is what the CBC rakes in for the drivel that we get. And we've been covering over the last couple of weeks some of the deeper stuff that they have not been covering, like the Shanghai Alliance, the Patriot Alliance in Europe, what they're doing to Orban, what has happened in Georgia. They're covering none of that. But It's a good thing we've got to this point still somewhat of an independent media. I got another clip here, and this is where it's going to get into what appears to be some good news. Remember, we are in the season of the political sacrificial lamb. So this one here, you guys will like, and I'll just give you a minute of this.
A shocking RCMP investigation just dropped a bombshell of corruption right in Justin Trudeau's inner circle. Turns out Trudeau's own personal consultant, Clara Visser, is facing criminal fraud charges for ripping off taxpayers while billing multiple government departments. This indictment exposes the depth of corruption rotting Trudeau's scandal-ridden government to its core. Even the PM's closest confidants are shamelessly betraying public trust. Conservative MP Michael Barrett grilled Trudeau, demanding to know how many fraudsters pocketed some of the $20 plus billion shelled out to liberal-friendly consultants. With Trudeau's buddies cashing in big time and security clearances now revoked for certain contractors, this fraud iceberg sure looks titanic. One thing's for sure, the RCMP's fraud charges against Trudeau's own advisor completely demolish any pretense of ethics in his government. The corruption reaches right to the top in Trudeau's circle. Welcome back to Street Politics.
All right, so charges against one of Trudeau's top advisors. What does that mean? What? Really? Somebody actually got busted? Yeah. Somebody actually did get charged. So as of July 9th, the RCMP Federal Sensitive and International Investigations Unit charged a federal government consultant for fraudulently overbilling the government of Canada. What she really got away with, we'll probably never know, but in a period of 1 year from or 6 months, I guess it was, from January to June of 2021, she raked in an estimated $250,000, $250,000 of your taxpayer dollars, and as a result was charged with fraud over $5,000. Now, court for Clara Visser will be September 6th, 2024. So that's this year coming up. What they're not really telling you guys is, to me, this is smoke and mirrors, and again, the sacrificing of the political lamb. What did she get? Who is this person? To be honest with you, it was very difficult to find out. I went looking. I could not find almost anything on this lady whatsoever. The only reason I actually came across this story and could even get a name was putting two and two together and digging and finding out that this is part and parcel to the just gonna find it here. You know, the WE scandal and the contracting and the consulting. Okay, let me get rid of this banner. Nope, wrong one. I'll throw a different one up for you guys. So the value of one consulting firm's federal contracts has skyrocketed under the Trudeau government. So this time frame, January 1st to June of 2021, was just at the beginning of COVID. And as a consultant to Trudeau's inner advisors, this lady's 68. What is she actually, for a charge of fraud of $5,000? What is she actually? What kind of accountability can we actually expect, or justice for the people? And for me, looking in on this, if she's Trudeau, one of Trudeau's closest advisors, stealing $250,000 in 6 months that she actually got caught for, how many years and how many other dollars has she gotten into? And that started me back, funny enough, into the ArriveCan debacle. And I watched another video a couple of weeks ago that connected to somebody that we've been putting under the scope a little bit lately, because they're a company that Canadians really don't know much about. We don't know what they're into, but they sure do get a lot of government money. And we talked about what they're doing now, and I'm referring to Deloitte, getting into the disease business. And what is Deloitte actually? We're going to look at their kind of their mentor corporation and how this has come to be. So now, believe it or not, yeah, I'm actually pulling up a CBC article because this article led me to a whole bunch of interesting stuff and a few very interesting people that I'll introduce to you all shortly. So the value of one consulting firm's federal contracts has skyrocketed under Trudeau, and I pulled this one up to share with you guys because this is the amount McKinsey has been raking in from since 2016 right up to 2022. They've gotten a little over $100 million that we know of so far at this point. It's an American firm with 30,000 consultants in 130 offices in 65 countries. They provide advice to both private and public entities. There's that public-private thing we're all learning so much about, right? Which sometimes have conflicting interests and does not disclose its business ties. Well, it's a good thing we've got a couple of minutes from a former McKinsey insider that we can listen to. But we're going to take a look at first, what is McKinsey? And is it a shadow government that secretly runs Canada? Would anybody, we talk about these guys being meat muppets, that there are people behind the scenes that control them. Well, here we are. We're going to look at and get to know a little bit more intimately what is McKinsey and is it a shadow government? So we're not the first country that's had problems with McKinsey. France, South Africa, and the United States have had issues, shall we say. So now this article goes back to January of 2023. So slipped under my radar. I really didn't know who this guy was, Dominic Barton. I'd kind of heard his name a little bit going through the news, but this kind of gave me a little bit more insight. And this is some stuff that we're going to need to know, because this is, in going back 2023, Pierre was already discussing these guys, and these guys have been giving testimony. They've been called into hearings and inquiries, blah, 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 and throwing pretty much everybody else under the bus. But we didn't really know a whole lot about these guys. They're a consulting company. Don't forget this guy here. Who is Dominic Barton? Well, first thing I did was look up McKinsey Canada and discovered a few things. They have deep roots here, serving 2/3 of Canada's top companies and organizations across all sectors, as well as leading civic and not-for-profit institutions. So they got their fingers into everything. And we know now that there's almost 180,000 NGOs and lobbyist groups in Canada operating. So how many of these guys working with? And they're a global management consulting firm. The trusted advisor to the world's leading businesses and institutions. And they have offices in, of course, Vancouver, Calgary, Wacky Mouse, Toronto, and Ottawa. So they're deeply plugged in. That would be the nerve centers by which this Dominic Barton weaves his little puppet master, the guy behind the green curtain, skill sets. So if this is the guy behind the curtain, we should get to know him a little bit. So he's known as Bao Damin in China, as a Ugandan-born Canadian business executive, author, and diplomat. I just learned today, guys, that we have 27 foreign-born members of federal parliament and as many as 20 plus in most of our provinces each. So How much control do people with foreign influences have, and how much influence do they have here in Canada? I think it's something we're going to have to look at a little deeper in some further shows. But he's currently chairman of the private investment firm Leapfrog Investments. I haven't looked into them, and this is why I put all of this together, guys, and put it all out in the Substack, because I am only one person, and I have to sort through mountains, unbelievable mountains of nonsense to get to news and truth and understanding. And when I put it all out in documents, others can pick up the things that they have interest in or ability to research, and this is how we beat the mercenary media. But he's also chancellor at the University of Waterloo. All right. He served as a Canadian ambassador to the People's Republic of China. Interesting. From 2019 to 2021, which is incidentally immediately what he did after leaving McKinsey is become our ambassador to the People's Republic of China. Prior to this, he was a managing director at McKinsey and Company from 2009 to 2018, when he basically was able to co-opt Canada through foreign infiltration by the World Economic Forum Fourth Reich and their young global leaders. He previously served as chairman of Tech Resources and all other kinds of things. Ordinarily, I wouldn't go into quite so much detail on one individual, but there's more to this. I did get kind of sideswiped into, my own personal curiosity. Was this guy related to Rosemary Barton of CBC? And I couldn't find any links. By initial research, looks like probably not. But there's all kinds of companies that this guy has got his finger into that rarely come up in good news. Rio Tinto being another one. The Eurasia Group announced the appointment of Barton as a strategic counselor. This guy is a Rhodes Scholar from Oxford, of course. Has advised both liberal and conservative on public sector transformation and economic growth. There's all kinds of links in here to this guy and his influence. This guy is like up there with the puppet masters, right? This guy led the way, and these guys keep growing upward. He earned a bachelor's degree in economics at the UBC. So this guy in the foundational period of the Trudeau regime was the consultant of choice. We've seen that going right back to here, right up to the current day. His mark has been left, and they have all that they need to carry on with their agenda so far here in Canada. So here's this insider clip. This is something that's going to give my eyeballs a break for 15 minutes, guys. But this is the meat and potatoes of this. Man, there is no way I'm going to get through everything I had queued up here for you guys tonight. So make sure you tune in tomorrow wherever you're tuning in from. But catch this one for sure. Now let's hear this. Make sure I have the volume off. Okay, let's see.
The global headquarters of one of the most influential companies. I'm entering the global headquarters of one of the most influential companies in the world. But you probably wouldn't know that because hiding in plain sight is kind of their thing. And from the shadows, they've been doing the dirty work for basically every brand you've ever heard of. Like 450 of the Fortune 500 companies. I'm talking big soda, big tobacco, big oil, and the very worst of big pharma. They've been called the single greatest legitimizer of mass layoffs of anyone, anywhere, at any time in modern history. They also work for the Saudi, Chinese, and American governments, and on whatever the hell this is.
The line will be home to 9 million residents and organized in 3 dimensions.
So who are they?
McKinsey's now accused of helping drug makers to, quote-unquote, turbocharge the sales of prescription opioids.
Behind President Vladimir Putin's war machine against Ukraine sits Rostec, until recently a client of McKinsey and Company.
You worked for a company that was fixing bread prices. No, I worked for a consulting company that had a client that may have been involved in fixing, or what was apparently.
Y'all recognize that dude? That's Mayor Pete, who loves breastfeeding his babies. Yeah, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, your National Transport Safety Advisor in the United States, straight from McKinsey.
A scandal.
Today, we're talking about McKinsey, the shadowy and parasitic consulting firm at the heart of nearly every industry in America. McKinsey claims to operate on a no-policy policy, free from a driving ideology or bias. But we tracked their history and broke down their worldview, and it places the consulting industry as secret agents in the war on working people. So what do consultants even do?
Our consultants work in many roles to solve our clients' toughest issues, whether as a trusted advisor or a hands-on coach. They integrate world-class problem-solving, industry and functional expertise and proprietary tools and capabilities to create change and lasting impact. Doesn't that sound just like Trudeau's favorite kind of gobbledygook? But yeah, Mayor Pete, gotta love Biden appointees, right?
Okay, but what do they actually do?
When I first applied and received an offer, I really had no idea what a BA does. The amazing thing is that what we do varies.
Communicate, present, model, plan, problem solve.
Be ambitious and find ways we can double our current rate of innovation.
No, but what do they actually do? I had to ask some experts to get a straight answer.
Well, in an ideal world, consultants add their brain power, to any company.
That was Mike Forsyth, a New York Times journalist and author of When McKinsey Comes to Town.
They come in as outsiders, look at a problem in a new way, and give good advice.
Consultants claim to help organizations solve problems that they would not be able to solve themselves.
This is Garrison Lovely, a former McKinsey employee turned whistleblower and journalist.
Whether that's entering a new market, reducing costs, helping a government achieve its mission better.
That's the idealized version. In the non-idealized version, the advice they give is bad advice, or the client they're working with is not a good actor.
So where did this lucrative problem-solving industry even come from? McKinsey was founded right after a period of historic corporate mergers. From 1895 to 1904, 1,800 companies were crunched into just 157 megacorporations.
And what happened next?
Including some familiar ones like US Steel, Nabisco, General Electric, and AT&T. You might also remember what happened in 1929. So,
She totally skipped over World War One. This was. Why do you think there was so much destabilization in the world after 1,800 companies got turned into 157 mega corporations? Doesn't that kind of sound a little bit like what Canada and the US are experiencing right now?
1933, the government passed the Glass-Steagall
just before the stock market crash
Act, which stopped banks from speculation, which is basically gambling with the money regular people put in their bank accounts. But
it was basically preventing businesses from sharing information with each other about what they were doing, and so they couldn't standardize practices as much. Consultants were a way to get around this, where they would work for one company and figure out what they're doing, and do this for a bunch of different companies within the same industry, and help these companies behave more or less the same way and standardize.
In 1951, General Motors hired McKinsey to conduct the first ever study of executive compensation. The project was led by this guy, Arch Patton.
He noticed that laborers after World War II, their wages were rising faster than management, and went to companies and said, hey, did you know that your workers are actually getting raises more than you are? And they were shocked by this, and this pioneered the field of executive compensation consulting.
At the time of the study, the average CEO was paid about 20 times his typical worker salary. Now, averages hit between 200 and 300, with some outliers approaching 2,000. Thanks, McKinsey.
They're management consultants. Since they were founded in the 1920s, they've been working with management. There is no equivalent McKinsey, for labor.
When it comes to labor, they've got one MO.
Layoffs.
If they're not laying people off, They're making other cuts and recommendations that totally hurt workers and consumers.
A very common thing is the CEO wants to enter a new market or lay off a bunch of people or close down some division. McKinsey will do a bunch of analysis and they'll come up with like all these clever seeming reasons why it makes sense to do the thing. And this is a way for the CEO or whoever else hired McKinsey to justify the decision.
In 2005, the average annual salary for a Walmart associate was roughly $17,500.
Its employee costs were going up because, associates, as Walmart calls them, were staying longer and longer and longer, but they didn't see a really big boost in productivity. So McKinsey came on board to help reduce healthcare expenses and to also try to trim benefits. And one of the findings and recommendations was to hire more part-time workers, because they don't have that burden of having all those benefits.
McKinsey also recommended that Walmart consider reducing its overall investment in profit sharing and 401k programs, lower its company-paid life insurance coverage, and move employees to consumer-driven health plans. Walmart wasn't the only client that used McKinsey to try and save money.
I want to point out here that this little info documentary clip really only covers the sunnier side, shall we say, of McKinsey.
In the 1990s, McKinsey came on board with Disneyland, and one of the areas they looked at was overhauling the maintenance program.
This was evil.
You have to keep in mind, this is a place that had a spotless record.
At that time, Disneyland had lots of mechanics maintaining rides. They made the rounds all day, tightening screws and bolts as needed and checking key safety features like lap bars.
So the idea, again, cut maintenance costs, move the maintenance crew to mostly work the graveyard shift at night.
The ride mechanic sent Disney multiple warnings of his safety concerns. McKinsey asked him why lap bars on a roller coaster were inspected daily when records showed they never failed. He replied, "The reason they don't fail is because we check them every night." It's like a pilot saying, "Hey, we haven't crashed in a while, let's just skip the pre-flight." Disney never responded to his complaints, and he was later fired. Not long after this, a child was seriously injured after falling out of a ride because of a lap bar issue. He never walked or talked again and died a few years later. Another serious accident occurred when an untrained supervisor docked a riverboat.
It's just extremely dangerous. You need to have very well-trained people to do this. Apparently the wood, in the dock was rotted, and the whole cleat just shot out like shrapnel and wound up, killing one person and injuring somebody else.
And another person was killed when wheels failed on the Thunder Mountain roller coaster. The cited causes of all of these accidents were staffing and maintenance.
This is not the Disney that many people grew up with, and they all happened after McKinsey came on board.
But
Now, I want to make a point here from my own personal experience. I watched the oil companies do the exact same thing until people started getting hurt, and I blew the whistle on a bunch of companies and lost my career over it, and I was okay with that. But it's the same process. They take away their own responsibility, and they lay it down on the employees after they've cut the employees and failed to train them. So same thing. This has been going on a long time.
McKinsey face any consequences for their bad advice?
McKinsey escapes accountability in a way because they are behind the scenes. It's all about secrecy, with them. Our advice is to you, and it's confidential. If you guys do great, wonderful, you take all the credit. If you screw up and things go bad, it's on you, it's not us.
If the project fails, the decision ends up being bad, it's like, well, clearly you hired the best consulting firm, so it must have been something else.
There's this symbiotic relationship between McKinsey and their clients.
That's exactly what we saw when the McKinsey rep was called to testify at the hearing for MP Brock, I think. But yeah, I tried to find that clip. I couldn't in time for tonight's show, but it was textbook exactly what that gentleman said.
When something goes wrong, all McKinsey did was make recommendations, and all the client did was follow them.
Who wrote this?
He did it!
It's a way to cover your ass, which is a very common expression in the business world.
This system is great for short-term profits and shareholders, but not so great if you care about jobs or safety. So what happens when you apply this mindset to the industries that we literally can't live without? That's when things start to get even darker.
Healthcare is pretty much McKinsey's bread and butter.
Bread prices.
Hospitals, for sure. Insurance companies, managed care companies, pharmaceutical companies. Top 5 McKinsey clients would be companies like Johnson & Johnson, and the big managed care insurance company, Anthem, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Let me say that again. McKinsey's biggest money earner is our healthcare system.
What did Trudeau do? He replaced our healthcare system with a pharmaconomy system. Who taught him how to do that? Who gave the liberals the tools to do that after spending billions and billions and billions of dollars on consulting and scams, and everybody all the way up the food chain getting their 10% for their big guy? Here we are.
And it's also where they've done some of the most damage. In 2018, McKinsey was contracted with the nonprofit hospital Providence Medical to design a program to get more patients to pay their medical bills.
Providence Hospital is a tax-exempt hospital. They're required to provide free care to poor people. And they were looking for any way to cut costs, and they turned to McKinsey to find a way to convince poor people to pay bills, even if in many cases they actually were not required to pay those bills.
McKinsey literally wrote a script for hospital staff to read to these patients. Staff were not allowed to take no for an answer and were told to take just $3 if that was all the patient had.
If they didn't pay, if they didn't get anything out of this, in some cases, they would refer to a third-party debt collection agency. They would, destroy these people's credit rating.
And now Providence is being sued while McKinsey
Destroy their credit rating. And what's coming up next with this credit system? So what they're basically connecting the dots here on is if that system was in place right now, like it is in China, and you didn't give your last $3 to the system, your credit rating would be pooched. And then if you're dependent on the system for sustenance and survival, I think you got a problem.
is once again not being held accountable, legally, financially, or otherwise. And while they're working for private sector clients, they're also working for the government agencies that are meant to be regulating them. 2 more McKinsey clients were Philip Morris and Juul.
McKinsey was also working, for the FDA office that regulated tobacco. At the same time, they had these clients. And you see the reporting in our book that said that actually the people at the FDA did not know that McKinsey was advising the tobacco companies. And this is the same, with Juul. This is when the FDA was cracking down on these e-cigarettes. And pharma, the same thing. And most infamously, they're working for opioid makers, especially Purdue Pharma.
Conflicts of interest are the name of the game.
Opioid makers. They've all been schooled by the same company that schooled Trudeau. And I wonder where they're getting their expert opinions on implementing these safe injection sites and legalizing all of these hard opiates here in Canada that are absolutely killing people. Too many to count. We can't keep up.
Game for McKinsey. They're like business class mercenaries. They'll fight for any and every side that will pay them, and sometimes even ones that don't. In 1997, the state of Illinois was trying to reduce welfare spending. They needed help, and McKinsey generously offered their services for free.
One of the tricks McKinsey does, they will often come in and do pro bono work. And this is often a way just to kind of get in the door.
Once their foot was in the door, they were called back by some of the same state officials 20 years later to help, this time with restructuring Medicaid. And this time, it wouldn't be for free. Around the same time, Illinois hit some budget troubles. It was found that they were in about $1 million of debt to basic medical services while sending $75 million to McKinsey. It was also found that under McKinsey's project, the state was paying $63 billion to 7 private insurers, 4 of whom were also McKinsey clients. According to the Illinois comptroller, this taxpayer money was spent with less oversight than a purchase of paper clips. Like a vampire, McKinsey got themselves invited in with pro bono work, and now they were sucking Illinois dry.
They're on all sides of the food chain, you know, in the healthcare industry, and there's just so much money there.
On their own website right now, McKinsey admits that healthcare in Illinois should be improved, specifically around opioid use. So cool that the solution to these problems they have actively helped create is bold collaborative action. It's like if someone came over to your house and used all your dishes and then was like, oh, according to my research, someone should probably do the dishes.
Dishes are done, man.
Once they sink their teeth into our governments, they stay for as long as they can. They make sure these agencies don't even remember a time before them.
You just end up relying on these people who are getting paid multiple times what a civil servant will be paid and aren't really accountable to the public in a serious way and may just come through for a few months at a time and then move on to something else since you don't build up this expertise.
Wait a minute. Isn't that what the National Post was asking about in January of 2023? Isn't a shadow government that secretly runs Canada called McKinsey?
Do things that states need to do.
They do all this while hiding behind the fact that they don't make the decisions.
This guy, Richard Elder, was like, look, we don't do policy, we just do execution. We're not here to make choices about what policies are good. All the values were about doing right by our clients, having an obligation to dissent, but that doesn't mean the dissent is going to go anywhere. Just means you're not going to get fired for speaking out.
A former McKinsey employee told Michael that a manager would advise new recruits to wedge yourself in and spread like an amoeba. Once in, you should spread yourself in the organization and do everything. In other words, act like a Trojan horse. He was talking about their clients, but as we've seen, the McKinsey amoeba
between young world global leaders and McKinsey, I think we've got two prongs of this Medusa, folks.
has wedged its way into every part of American life. So what should we do about it? Well, the DOJ is investigating their work on opioids criminally for the first time. And some politicians have even talked about banning McKinsey from federal contracts. But most of these problems aren't even unique to McKinsey. If we just banned one consulting firm from federal contracts, the others would likely just fill in the gaps.
The reality is there are companies called Bain and Boston Consulting Group and Deloitte and Accenture, and they are offering kind of the same product. And I don't think that the results would be that different.
Ultimately, we need to untangle the dependency on consulting McKinsey has fostered in our government.
Things are set up in such a way where if you just cut off the consulting firms, I don't think you can build up that capacity overnight. This is like a kind of a generational long project. And I think that requires, governments paying people more and creating workplaces that are more appealing, as well as just a philosophical change of public-private partnerships are not.
Bingo. That's the hammer. That's the hammer, guys. These are the guys that are advising and manipulating the Canadian government into implementing public-private partnerships in every major center of this country. They have the arteries stuck into Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal. These guys are the fascists. And people tell me, oh, fascists, you don't even know what fascist is. It was Italy. Fascist is a merger of corporation and state. And that is what is being implemented by the World Economic Forum. And this corporation and others like it, like Deloitte, are the ones that are the Hermann Görings for the mustache man.
The default best way to go, and government should actually learn how to do things well. Again, and we've done it before.
And what about the army of young MBA grads ready to keep the consulting industry marching on for another 100 years?
I would tell them that these organizations will promise you that you can do work that is exciting and prestigious and improves the world. With smart people that pays well, you can have it all. And I would just tell them that that's not true. I think I'm really much happier than the cohort of people that I worked with at McKinsey, even though I make so much less money than them. And my life and career is less stable and predictable. but you have privilege by being in this position, and you have some kind of opportunity and I think to some extent an obligation to use that to actually make the world a better place. And I think you will end up being happier for it.
Thanks for watching The Classroom.
All right, guys. That was what I really wanted everybody to see, was exactly this connection between these consultants and power brokers and how they have infiltrated our country doing the bidding of these young World Economic Forum leaders. And they're just going, we're just calling in the experts. We're just taking their advice, right? Now we're going to take a little bit of a look at who McKinsey is. How big they are. 55 years, 650 plus consultants across 4 Canadian locations and speaking 70 plus languages. When you start looking through here and getting a feel for what they are, this is the most communistic corporation that I think I have ever looked at. And this is where, again, all of this is going to be in the Substack tomorrow, guys. This is going to be a deluge from a fire hose on this. So I'm just skipping over it, but this is their statement on their website. So I'm going to read this one out loud for everybody. No, old saucy, we don't have 70 plus language. Well, we probably do, to balance out the genders, but the fact that these guys can do anything, they will do anything on behalf of our government. Trudeau wants to send $72 billion to Timbuktu. They'll find a way to make that happen, right? There's all kinds of stuff. These guys are now, when we get into these young global leaders and the global shapers, they're absolutely all World Economic Forum disciples. That is the university of this Reich, this regime that we're under. Everything stems from there and is shaped down. The global shapers is just one of the 177,000 foreign or lobbyists, NGOs, nonprofits in Canada. I don't know how many of them are foreign funded, but when you're looking at a company like McKinsey and Co., you can bet that all of the lefties, all of the radicals, all of the eco-terrorists, all of these this demolition team, because this is what they're doing. They're demolishing our country from the bottom up, all with the implementation. That's where they're doing the rebuilding of the Build Back Better. And these are the guys that are advising them on how to do it. McKinsey and Company opened its first Canadian office in 1968. I used to think that was a good year. It used to be mine. Now I'm kind of feeling maybe I'm cursed. More than 1,000 colleagues from across our offices in Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver help clients across the country make distinctive and lasting improvements in their performance. We are proud of our 55-year history in Canada and a record of positive impact in Canada and the local communities where we live and work. While our work for Canadian government departments has increased in recent years, along with the growth in consulting, outsourcing more generally, there have been inaccuracies expressed related to how we're contracted and the nature of our work. This is their About page. So they're putting up a disclaimer saying that you've heard lies about us. We're really good at what we do. Our government work in Canada is entirely non-partisan in nature and focuses on core management topics such as digitization and operations improvement. Our firm does not make policy recommendations on immigration or any other topic. No, they only were a part of the GC Strategies Corporation that's being investigated and fighting with the Canadian Border Agency. So they got their sticky little fingers into all of that. So even though they claim they're not making recommendations on immigration or policy, we know pretty much that they are. We follow the relevant procurement laws in all of our work, and any suggestion to the contrary is simply inaccurate. All of the contracts awarded to McKinsey by the federal government fall under the same public procurement laws and methods used to procure all goods and services in the federal government. I doubt that. Government contracts are subject to review by the Canadian International Trade Tribunal and are awarded by the public service following a rigorous review of technical and price criteria. We are proud of the work we do on behalf of the Government of Canada and the programs which we have strengthened through our independent analysis and advice. We are aware that Canadian members of Parliament have called for a committee hearing regarding our work and welcome the opportunity to present these facts. This is so deep into the swamp here, guys. This is exactly what this dude set up and organized and structured for the government at hand. And beyond that, some of you guys might have heard of this Century Initiative. Well, this just so happens to be exactly the brainchild of this clown right here. Again, another globalist, overreaching, insane initiative. This is purely diabolical, guys. Canada's at a crossroads. Yeah. Oop. It's not okay. Our population is aging. Workforce participation is shrinking. Economic growth is tied to population growth. Which side of history will Canada be on? We can manage our growth or accept our decline. This is that globalist population, depopulation, restructuring, great reset, planting the seeds of that. And this guy is the maestro. This is all one complicated mess. I do apologize, Billy. This one I'm going to leave it all in there in the Substack, but I'm trying to kind of dig into what these guys are all overarching. These guys are like the generals. They only deal with the implement, the structure. How do they put that? The actual tangibles of it. And this guy here, I pulled up, I should, hopefully it's still here. This guy, besides his coziness to the Chinese regime, McKinsey got caught up in a massive corruption scandal in South Africa and has been harshly criticized over the advisory services it provided to Purdue Pharma to help it boost sales of OxyContin, the drug at the heart of the opioid crisis. Now Barton can paper over those unfortunate years at McKinsey and sell himself as a former ambassador. Reputation washing, absolutely, and a little bit more. Now, I'm going through these articles and this research. I just want people to understand how deep these guys are crushing us. And this is like these guys, if I was to use a World War II analogy, would be the Blitzkrieg armored divisions. That's what McKinsey is, right? They are the tank class. They are the technocratic management. No matter how brilliant, they cannot unwind structural inequalities. This is going back 4 years. This is really something that our friends south of the border will be more interested in. But make no mistake, everything that Mayor Pete Buttigieg destroys in the U.S. has everlasting implications. We are against the same invaders, the same destroyers. The same demolition crews are attacking the U.S. as they are in Canada. And they try to pretend that they are just bumbling ineptitude individuals, but they are not. They are deep, diabolical, and they are all connected together in this mess. And this ArriveCan, this is why they are so desperate. The Trudeau regime is so desperate to hide this, to cover this up. Now, these are some really long articles, but I just wanted to pull up this section here for everybody. I'm going to go a little bit long on this, but I'm still going to leave a lot for tomorrow. But a few months later, after whatever, Amanda Clark, and this is the person I'm interested in hearing this. An associate professor at Carleton University School of Public Policy and Administration told the committee looking into the contracts from McKinsey that the reliance on management consultants is not an accident. Not an accident. Why do you think dude got such a cushy appointment from Mr. Trudeau? Is not an accident. It's an inevitable dynamic of a public service that has suffered from a lack of investment in talent and recruitment and reforming HR practices to make it a load of bunk. But I pulled up what she said in a hearing, and I'm going to add this into the chat as well. She's not really seeing the full picture, but she is bringing up evidentiary material we have got to continue to support the efforts. Mr. Brock and those that are chasing after answers to this, because it's just an endless money pit. It's not an accident. It's not an accident, guys. That's the point that I wanted to drive home out of this. So a couple more links that I'll be adding into the Substack where this is just one case. Did I have something pulled up here in this one? I don't remember. But there's others. But this is where it came out about Trudeau's advisor. So now we're starting to connect the dots in a full circle. McKinsey, Mr. Barton, Mr. Trudeau, and ArriveCan, McKinsey, all part of the same loop of theft, crime, fraud, and they sacrificed a 68-year-old lady now and kind of letting her off the hook with a $5,000 charge to say, see, we are pursuing justice. We got one, guys. This, habitual or not, at 68 years old, that's who they're throwing to the wolves to cover their own asses, as you heard that farmer guy just discuss. And absolutely, I want to pull this one up here. 18 billion to Ukraine, and I brought up a new bill that would put more hundreds of billions of dollars in shells going direct from our, mining material to the manufacturing to shells for Ukraine. This is, both sides of the political aisle in Canada are getting involved in this future military and industrial complex, or trying to feebly. But yeah, this is them throwing this one lady to the wolves to cover up the money laundering and all of those things, is what they're doing, right? And sacrificing the one individual. And of course, everybody covered it, even the True North. I'm going to put all of these links in there. There's more stuff to go through. We read the news release. I'll make sure that's in the link as well for later tomorrow. And let's see if no, the rest I'm going to leave the rest of this for tomorrow, guys, because it's kind of the next step. And tomorrow we'll start off with the next plan. BlackRock is the investment firm. So we know about BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. But it's not our governments with the brain power to implement all of this globalization and World Economic Forum forthright, guys. It is not Canada that. It's not Trudeau or any of those meat muppets that are the diabolical brain children behind this demolition of Canada. It is literally these guys right here, McKinsey. They're the ones that we are paying, or that they are stealing your money from to give to these guys, to tell these guys, these globalist meat muppet infiltrators, exactly what to do to destroy our country. So that's kind of where I'm going to leave it off tonight, guys. I did. No, I'm not going to leave everybody on that. I think I've given everybody some really big nuggets that they can run with. But I'm going to take a quick skim over this one because I wanted to make this kind of a weekly thing. This is the wins of the week post from Dr. Mark Trotzy, and he kind of gathers up the stuff. He sits with Ted Kuntz of Vaccine Choice Canada, and they talk about some of the different things that have been going on that we don't necessarily get to see. And I'll make sure that this is linked in there as well. There's a lot going on in the political spectrum. The UN, Saskatchewan won in their injunction against Trudeau's, again, unconstitutional overreach. There's a lot in here for people that people can follow up on. Check Dr. Trotzy if you're following him there already. This one here is going to impact a lot. It's exposing more of the double standards. Trudeau, talks big against Russia, but yet kisses their butt so that he can get the special titanium that Boeing Canadian company needs for their Airbuses here. Non-Indigenous are now self-identifying as Indigenous to gain benefits. This is, just there's just no rhyme or reason to anything, but they're on it. Mick Jagger had his concert blown up when he realized that maybe they didn't want to hear Lefty cajoling. There's a lot in here, guys. Some legal action. Texas, I think it was, yes. Texas Supreme Court upheld the 2023 law making it illegal to subject minors to puberty blockers. The charges against Max Bernier were dismissed. We covered not the Democracy Fund, but their lawyers have stopped a bunch of tickets. Ontario court ruled in favor of charge and convicted for refusing to submit a COVID test. Right, that one made a set a precedent. So there is so much going on. So yeah, you guys have had a drink from the fire hose, and I still have at least a third to cover tomorrow on. So we're going to get into tomorrow what GARM is, and this is, I'm doing this by design, guys. With every show that I'm doing now for the last several weeks, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. They connect. It's not just skimming over the day's headlines to find some rage bait or emotional trigger for people. I'm trying to give people the evidence that they need to connect the dots to make sense so that they can make educated decisions on what they're doing. As we heard from Julian right at the beginning there, if we have a healthy media environment, we can have peace. Without a healthy media environment, we will have no peace. It's the foundation of what our regime is using through the two-headed hammer of propaganda and censorship. So it's a good time to share, to like, subscribe, and share, guys. As you guys are seeing with me, living with me, the experience of how much stronger the censorship is becoming. It's becoming more and more difficult to get this show out there. It's always a good time to buy me a coffee at Buy Me a Coffee. What's Up C. And I'm not just talking for myself, guys. Support all independent journalists that are going through taking the risk, guys like Mocha Barazan, Chris and Jody. There's all kinds of us out there. But if this is a platform that you believe in and trust, help me keep this free for everyone. And you can do that with a donation at donate@whatsupcanada.org. And on that, I think I've talked myself as empty as I can for one night. I'm going to go deal with this headache, find a whole bunch more for everybody tomorrow. I hope you guys find some interesting nuggets and all of that today. And I really want to set up a time on a weekend coming up here. It'll be this coming weekend, Sunday. I'm going to do a little off the books one-on-one with a bunch of people and answer and clean up a bunch of misconceptions and misunderstandings about one of the partner companies that we have. We see a lot of people that understand the problem, and we've got a solution, but I guess we need to take another look at helping people understand the solution. So it's the Patriot Switch program, and I'm going to leave you guys with that, and we will see you all tomorrow. I love you all. Stay strong, stay mighty, my fellow patriots and hostages, and live. That's what they can't stand. We'll see you tomorrow.